Hey, Free Mind, you crazy for this. Soulful. It's like our responsibility to make us feel something. You know, to make people feel what we feeling. Hey, yo.
Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is Comics Today, a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And if you are a fan of comics, you know what this day is all about. It is the day when we swing by the LCS and we offload some cash and pick up some really awesome comics in exchange for that money, and then we rush home and then we start to read the books that we've actually picked up. It is a very special day that goes back in a very long history of nerddom, if you will. And I want to definitely welcome you guys to this live stream because, again, during this live stream, we are basically celebrating New Comic Book Day. And I will tell you, I did not make it to the LCS today, but I managed to pick up some really awesome stuff. And I'll talk about that in just a hot minute. And also in a moment, I will be going to the live stream. If you managed to make it by your LCS and you picked up some books, let me know what it is that you picked up. Let me know who your LCS is. And if you read something already today that is really awesome that we should put on the top of our stacks, I want you to let us know that as well. I consistently get messages from people. And there's a group of people out there that will say there is nothing good out right now. There is no new comic that is actually good. And I completely disagree with that. I think that this time period is just like every other time period in the history of comics. There's some good stuff. There's some not so good stuff. So if you've read something that is really good, let us know what that is. The other message that I get from people is, I don't know where to begin. I don't know what to read. I don't know where to start. So again, by putting out your recommendations, it helps the community know what they should be focused on, because there are hundreds of books that get released every single month. And we want to try to guide people to the good stuff, right? And everyone's opinion of what's good differs, but the recommendations help give people a little bit of direction and a little bit of focus. And my watch is buzzing like nobody's business, and there is a reason for that. 2021 New Age Investments, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. He says, receive my CBCS order today. Banger alert. Banger alert, he says. Is it up on Instagram? I know you tend to do your stuff on Instagram. So if you did an Instagram feed or whatever, let us know what's up with that. Matt Wood says, there are so many great stories out there right now. No, brother, no. It's all trash. Everything new is trash. That's what people try to say to me. And I had a guy the other day, he said this, and I was like, well, have you read these books? And I listed out several books. And he's like, no, I haven't read any of those books in like the last 18 months. And he was like, I may have to check those out. And I actually applaud him. I applaud this guy, because if you throw something out there and someone counters it, be honest about it. And this guy was pretty honest. He's like, I haven't read any of that stuff. And I'm like, well, you're missing out, because you say that there's nothing good, but here is some good stuff. Go check this stuff out. Anybody that says, the 60s or the 70s were the greatest time period, or the 80s for that matter, or the 90s. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that there is some good and some bad in all eras of comics. And the question is, can you find the good stuff to read? Because in the present day, there is some good stuff. The same way that in the 60s and the 70s and the Silver Age, which is my favorite time period, there's a lot of really awful stuff. There's some awful stuff. 80s, awful stuff. 2000s, awful stuff. But again, separating the good from the bad, it is definitely out there. So I'm going to go to the chat here in a second. If you guys picked up some really awesome stuff, let me know what it is that you picked up. Let me see. Made it to my side. Made it to my side. Made it to my side LCS. Picked up a milestone titles, Spider-Man, and I have not read them yet. Brother, I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't want your main LCS to find out about your side LCS, because You know, if those two worlds collide, then you have problems. And hopefully you guys pick up on some of the nuance of what was just said there. The two worlds collide. Come on, man. Come on, that was genius. As is this side LCS. That is just genius stuff. You got to have fun with this stuff. Scrolling through some of the comments here. I'm scrolling through current runs, says Frog Brawler. Current runs are Moon Knight, which is great. Moon Knight is great. Punisher, great. Ghost Rider, I haven't read Ghost Rider. I'll be honest, I haven't read that, but the first two are fantastic. The Punisher issue number 3, just good reading. Good reading, no doubt about it. And Moon Knight, I've been speaking with a lot of people about this lately. The Moon Knight series, I have to credit with what I believe to be a surge of interest in the Moon Knight character. The TV show has provided us with a point of entry into the Moon Knight character that I don't think would have been there had it not been for the TV show. I would have zero interest in a Moon Knight comic had it not been for the TV show, which was fantastic. Fingers crossed for season 2, no doubt about it. Silver Coin, the Silver Coin is the LCS, says Vox. Picked up 11 books. I'm reading through the lines here. Much anticipated James tie-in issue, Something is Killing the Children, issue number 24. Again, a fantastic read. Fantastic read. I don't know if you can say enough about Erica Slaughter. I don't know if you can say enough about Something is Killing the Children and what James Tynion is doing. He is a phenomenal writer. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Am I the only person to watch Reggie while shopping at Home Depot? Brother, I'm going to be honest with you. Home Depot is one of my favorite destinations. It's one of my favorite destinations, my friend. I'm a huge fan of the Home Depot. They get a tremendous amount of my money. They should come up with the story with the season 2 Moon Knight. Fingers crossed that they can come up with some magic that will be season 2. Planet Arizona says, correct, Reg, never read Moon Knight until the Disney Plus series. Now I can't get enough. I mean, in anticipation of the Moon Knight series, I started to read some Moon Knight, right? Because I needed to be prepared. And I'm going to be honest, I did not enjoy it. There's a lot of Moon Knight. I went back to a lot of the old stuff. I read it. I did not enjoy it. I started reading the new Moon Knight. It's solid. It's solid. That's all that I could say. Treat yourself. He says, I am not new to the channel by any means, but today is my first. Hey, welcome to you. Welcome to you. This is your live stream. Everybody gets one video or live stream a year, and this one is yours. Mark never lets me down, my Canadian brother. 19 books in all. Newborn, Noctera, The Lonesome Hunters, The Collector, etc. Definitely some good stuff. I tried to read that Black Adam. The first part of it was pretty good, but there was a period where it took a left, and I was like, I don't know what's happening right now, but it appears that, well, let me not ruin it. There's a transition of sorts that is happening with Black Adam. I may need to read that issue number 1 again because I was on the struggle bus. Towards the end of that one, I will tell you. Scrolling through, we got to get rid of that person. No, we don't do that here. I think I got that person. Maybe one of the blue wrenches may have snatched that up already. What is that? Yeah, I cannot disagree. Nice House on the Lake, fantastic. Something is Killing the Children, fantastic. Moon Knight, fantastic. Again, people say that there's nothing good out to read. They need to treat themselves. And even if you say there's nothing good at Marvel and DC, I disagree. Because when you say that when you put out an absolute, that means that if I can bring up one thing, it disarms your entire argument. So I think people have to be careful about what they say. But yes, the independents are doing some really good stuff, but there is also some good stuff at Marvel and DC as well. There is some good out there. You just have to find it. Kevin says, I guess you picked up Superman 144 CGC 8.0. There you go. Welcome. Read it and let me know. You always giving me tips. I read that Calculated Man. Stopped about halfway through that. I was on a struggle bus with that one. And I was also on the struggle bus with this Black Adam issue #1. Thankfully, Dave is not here. Dave Bratton is not here. He is off doing some other things. So he is not here. So thankfully, he has not heard me badmouth Black Adam. But we will see. We will see what he thinks. So the Blue Wrench, man, I am very thankful for my Blue Wrenches. Our first guest is behind the scenes, but I want to ask him to hold on for a second because there is something magical that happened a short while ago. And I tell people all the time, I am honestly living my best life. And that doesn't mean that everything's perfect, but that I am living in many ways my best life. I'm doing things that I never imagined that I would be able to do as it relates to comics. And today was a major milestone for me personally. And I think also for the larger team that is involved in the Isolation project. Today, we were included in Key Collector app. Today, Isolation has appeared in Key Collector app under Swoldier Publishing. So Swoldier Publishing is me. It's basically me. And we have our comic in Isolation. I'm sorry, in Key Collector app, the Isolation comic, which is coming out in July. This is a major milestone. Horror and fantasy collide in a series about a researcher investigating a series of murders that occur in 3 time periods: 1869, 1919, and 1949. Limited print run of 7,500 copies. Lock it. It's not moving. 7,500 copies available for pre-order on regiecollects.com. We are in Key Collector app, and I feel like we have arrived. This is a very special day. And then as you click on it, you can see that one of our exclusive variants is up there. It is specifically the Patreon exclusive that is an homage to Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. This one is limited to 100 signed copies. And Edgar Draws It is the fantastic artist that actually drew this thing. And Dakota, super talented guy from the Kubert School, did the colors, and he did an amazing job. Shout out to Key Collector app for supporting what we are trying to do, man. I'm just blown away and truly humbled by the fact that we are in Key Collector app. It's awesome. It really is. So we may talk about this a little bit later in the show because I do want to get to our first guest, and I need to do a little bit of a lead in. For the first guest. So if you are looking at the screen, you're probably noticing possibly down below that we're going to talk about sidekicks. And the question is, who in the world needs a sidekick in this day and age? Are sidekicks overrated or whatever? But regardless of what you think about sidekicks, there is a new list out, from our friends over at Newsarama. They put out a lot of lists: the best DC books, the best Marvel books, the greatest books of all time. And today they have put out a list of basically the greatest sidekicks of all time. So technically it is, as I scroll over, the best superhero sidekicks of all time. And basically, I think the reason that they put this list together, why does he have underarm hair? I don't know if a comic book superhero sidekick should have underarm hair, but whatever. But they put this thing together, I guess, because sidekicks are now being moved to the forefront in a couple of comics that are coming out. And so they put this list together to get us swirling, to get us talking about sidekicks. And so this is the list. And the question that I'm going to ask you guys as you look at this list is, are there any surprises? Is there anyone missing? Does this list make sense? So number 10, we have Jimmy Olsen. I'm going to rip through this really quickly. Number 9 is Lockheed the Dragon. Number 8, Rick Jones, who is maybe a fan favorite. I don't know, a huge fan of Incredible Hulk. Next up, we have the Newsboy Legion. No clue who that is. No clue. Scrolling down, Bob, Agent of Hydra. Okay, scrolling down through the list, Hit Girl is coming in at number 5 from Mark Miller. Number 4 is Wally West, who goes on to become Flash. Number 3, Bucky Barnes, who doesn't love some Winter Soldier. Harley Quinn comes in at number 2, side chick. sidekick to Joker, and then number 1 is Robin, of course. So that is the list that has been put out there by Newsarama of the best sidekicks of all time. And to discuss this, I wanted to invite onto the show my Canadian brother, Wayne. Squirrel Madness, it is good to see you.
Thank you for having me back again, Reggie.
It is my pleasure. Wayne, I need to take this off the screen so I can see what you have in your background.
I decided to make it like set up for. So I've got first sort of Teen Titans from Brave and the Bold, first Wally West, Speedy is a junkie, because that's as close as I get. And I did the Invaders because I was thinking of Bucky and Toro.
Oh, you can't go wrong with the Invaders, brother. You can't go. You cannot go wrong with the Invaders. So Wayne, I wanted to have you on, man, because you've been doing this for a while. You have a diverse set of interests when it comes to comics, and I felt like you would be able to give me a little bit of context, right? So, as you look at this list, what are your first impressions of this list?
I think they missed several really key people, and there's some I kind of disagree with, like Lockheed. I don't consider Lockheed like a sidekick. I consider Lockheed at the very least a companion, and at the very most a full-fledged hero in their own right. You know, given the context of what they contribute. So I don't think Lockheed is Shadowcat's sidekick. I don't. No.
I mean, she's not even I mean, she's evolved as a character, so maybe they should evolve what was maybe her pet at once upon a time.
Kind of pet, but he stowed away and he kind of joined her and he saved her a few times, and became entwined also with Ilyana Rasputin. He's more of a character than a sidekick.
I get it.
And even Jimmy Olsen, some people think of Jimmy Olsen as a Superman sidekick, especially with the Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen comic, but I kind of don't. I kind of feel like Jimmy Olsen is a standalone character that gets drawn into Superman stories as opposed to somebody who goes out with Superman. That's what I consider a sidekick. Somebody who dons a costume, or at the very least becomes part of the Avengers because they're being dragged along with the Avengers, or they're kind of almost voluntarily saying, I'm going to put myself in danger to do something. Whereas he's kind of not, there's like a distinction. I can't put my finger on why, but I don't consider him a sidekick.
No, that's actually a legitimate point. I mean, you raise a great point that we've raised a lot of times with these different lists that come out from Newsarama, is like, what's the definition that you're using to include or exclude certain things, right? We don't get an exact definition, but I would kind of sort of agree with that a sidekick is, in my mind, when you talk about superheroes, is somebody that suits up. You suit up and you go out and you assist the superhero action.
Or even if you're not suiting up, you're always part. Well, see, this makes me feel like Jimmy does fit in. You're always part of the action. Like you think about the Guardian and the Newsboy Legion. They're always out there with Guardian. Or a lot of the Golden Age heroes had like human sidekicks. I can't remember. Plastic Man had, I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the character, but it was a human, that was always there, involved with all the Avengers. But Jimmy Olsen kind of was a reporter / photographer. So he kind of had to be in the action in a way, and it's different.
So were those the only two that you kind of objected to, the Jimmy Olsen and the Lockheed? Were those the only two? You know
what? I'm not really familiar too much with the Kick-Ass universe, so I think
Hit Girl.
Hit Girl, I think initially might have been kind of a sidekick, but I think in the end she kind of ended up being. She also stands alone as a hero and has her own kind of parts of play that's a little different than just being a sidekick. I mean, I agree with number one for sure, 100%. Like Robin should top every sidekick list there is.
There you go. So we have a couple of additions. So we have Mark throwing out Frenchie for Moon Knight. I mean, I guess he
Yeah.
was kind of involved, right? And Phil
Yeah.
Tastic is like, I don't consider Hit Girl a sidekick.
Yeah.
So I think he
Yeah.
kind of agrees with you. I don't know which
Bob,
way.
Bob is
I don't,
kind of a sidekick.
he
Bob is
was?
kind of a sidekick to Deadpool, but
Yeah.
you know, for the most part, yeah, you know what, they're not bad. And you know, adding Harley Quinn was kind of interesting to kind of go the villain route. But I actually came up with a list of ones that I thought would be applicable sidekicks to
Wayne. So
play
first of
them.
all, that's a long list.
Yeah, well,
Are there duplicates or are those addition to what's already on the list?
there's some duplicates, but I mean, you label me as a DC guy, so I mean, you can't go
Incorrectly, so I won't do that again.
No, I mean, I like DC, but yeah, I mean, you go back to you know, you got your Wonder Girls, your Speedies, your Kid Flashes, which Wally West was on there, Sandy with Sandman. Let's see who else. There's some terrible ones they use too. Like there's a lot of very racially insensitive caricature sidekicks that they use, like Pie Face with Green Lantern and stuff that they used. But I mean, when you think of the genesis of the original Teen Titans, how many of those were like Aqualad were really great, you know, sidekicks, Aqua Girl.
Yep.
But they didn't make the list, and I kind of wonder why, because they're kind of the sidekicks I first think of when I think of a sidekick.
And again, had they had some criteria, it would maybe help us to kind of frame it up. I mean, I felt like they may have been scraping the bottom of the barrel with a couple of them where I'm like, really?
Well,
like, it just didn't make sense.
Well, one of the ones that came to mind, although not originally a comics origin character, is very important in comics, both from the Golden Age and in the modern times, is Kato with the Green Hornet.
Oh, that's a good sidekick.
Like, that's a great sidekick.
Yeah.
Why aren't you including Kato?
He's a legitimate sidekick.
Legit sidekick.
Yeah. And the same thing, like Robin is the quintessential sidekick, right? I think he might have been like, not the original, but his origins go back a ways, right? But Kato definitely fits into that mold. And I'm seeing a couple of comments of other folks. Chris Bigger is agreeing with the Kato. So I'm curious, as you guys look at this list, you just saw me run through the list. Are there any that you think are missing? I know Wayne just added a couple. I'm curious whether folks think some others are in here missing or just don't belong, like Lockheed. Is Lockheed a standalone character at this point? I don't know if anybody's going to disagree with Rick Jones. I don't know. Maybe some folks will, but
no, I think initially Rick Jones certainly was kind of a sidekick to the Hulk. I mean, he grew as a character over time and went through a lot of iterations and powers and things that made him a hero in his own right. But initially, yeah, that's the thing. I always find something's really interesting, like when you compare Marvel to DC. I mean, DC really went all in the Golden Age, especially and then to the Silver Age and their sidekicks, whereas Marvel, I struggled to think about. I mean, Bucky, Toro.
Yeah.
Okay,
Toro would have been a good one.
You know, and then I kind of like, okay, I can't think of anybody else who's like a teen sidekick, you know, who was kind of came through that whole period. Like, not like Submariner had one, or I couldn't think of any. Like, DC
it's
really went all in.
Struggle, and I think it may be a little bit of a difference between Marvel and DC, right? I think that potentially DC had some success with Robin, and they were like, well, let's do a couple more. Let's kind of keep it going. Whereas Marvel, I struggle to kind of identify some that have like gone through time, you know? I mean, Toro, I think, was a great sidekick, you know, for the Human Torch. Great sidekick. But where is he? And then, you know, Bucky has evolved over time, but he's now his own man, if you will. But his origins were very much that of a sidekick for Captain America, and then also for the Invaders. And again, I'm a huge fan of the Invaders. So, you know, Bucky and I are good. Same with Toro, you know. But outside of that, you think about like Spider-Man, for example. His entire universe is made up of a ton of characters that could be like Jimmy Olsen. Think about how many, you know, cast of characters that get pulled into the action, kind of sort of maybe like a Jimmy Olsen. I don't know, but it's an interesting list.
But I think it's also a lot about how they try to develop. I mean, I think a lot of it was selling, well, obviously selling comics, but creating they knew their readership was young people, and they're like, you know, we're going to make you feel like you could be part of the action, and that is kind of that wish fulfillment they like to give to young people. Whereas Marvel told I felt like told different stories that were a little more grounded in reality, but grounded in reality in the sense that, you know, not everyone's going to have a teenager running along beside them. They're going to get into stickier, muckier situations.
Yep.
You look at the Silver Age of DC versus Marvel, and, you know, the growth of groups like the Teen Titans, but they had like really gritty adventures. And Marvel had really gritty adventures, but a lot of DC's Silver stuff was just kind of silly, right? They got the Comics Code Authority slapped on them, and they started telling, you know, Batman of multiple colors, or you know, Batman of the year 1,000,000 BC, and it's whereas then Marvel's like, you know, Peter Parker got bit by a spider and lost his uncle because of his inactivity and what that means to shape him as a person.
Yeah,
totally different types of stories.
Yeah,
so,
you don't need a kid in that respect. He also couldn't pay his rent, but that kind of kept Peter Parker grounded to reality.
Yeah.
His inability to fit in, his
Yeah.
awkwardness with girls, his inability to like pay his rent, his struggle with like taking care of family, and his responsibilities to Aunt May. There is a comment here. There's actually a couple of comments that I want to look at. This is one that I thought about. And I think that they purposefully did not include Falcon. But let me hear your thoughts on that, Wayne.
I thought about Falcon when I was writing my list, and I stopped myself because although it was Captain America and Falcon, that's what they named the I didn't see Falcon as a sidekick. I saw them as a partnership, and that is kind of
Uh-oh. We may have lost Wayne there for a second, so we'll give him a second to recover. But Chris Bigger, I considered this one as well. I considered Falcon, and I think that they purposefully made a decision not to include that character on there. And Wayne, I think you were mid beard stroke and thought.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. I consider Falcon a partner, less than a sidekick, an equal, not somebody you're trying to bring along and train and create. Help them grow. Like, I think Falcon came in already like that.
Yep.
And to be honest, and speaking as a white male, I think it's very dangerous to kind of go, well, this white, you know, chiseled white blonde American character has a black sidekick. I think that's fraught with dangers that you don't want to touch. To be honest,
I think that there was definitely some thought that was given to that, and I had the exact same thought that you had. Like, they were like, we probably don't want to go down that path, which makes sense because again, Falcon is his own man, right? Even though he is now Captain America, he came in his own man. He had his own name. You know, and he's gone on to carry a mantle respectfully, multiple times, right? But there's another one here. This is an interesting one. The Comic Chief says, any Herald of Galactus. I had not considered that, but are they sidekicks or slaves? Like, legitimately.
I mean, I don't think they're sidekicks. I really don't think they're sidekicks because they are beholden to him. That's the difference. Galactus, well, owns them. Really, they do his bidding
with cosmic power, and he's like, "Go do my bidding." Sometimes reluctantly, like a sidekick is like, "Hey, I'm ready to go. Let's go do this." You know?
Yeah, Harley Quinn was ready to go do it with the Joker. I mean, that's like she was. You know, I'm gonna commit crimes with you. But man, Silver Surfer, I mean, look what happens when he disobeys Galactus. Or any of them disobey. I mean, really, is the golden oldie Aunt May a sidekick to Galactus? I don't think so.
I saw that comment in there as well. I wasn't going to touch that one. Oh, that's an interesting. Kevin's asking if Venom's sidekick is technically Eddie Brock, or is it vice versa?
No.
It's a symbiotic partnership to some degree,
that's
right?
Different than a sidekick, I think.
Yeah.
They're part and parcel of the same thing, and symbiotic. One feeds off the other, so they're together in certain level of equality. Because Venom wouldn't be Venom without Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock would not fulfill his originally darker desires and then later not so dark desires if he didn't have the Venom symbiote. So that's different.
Don't comment on this one. I just thought that was funny. You guys are hilarious. And again, what's really cool about this is folks are coming up with some stuff here in the chat that I didn't think about. I didn't
Yeah.
anticipate some of these, and that's part of what makes these lists fun, is that we can
Yeah.
just have a free-flowing discussion, not too serious, just having some general fun. But Wayne, as we get ready to wrap up here, any additional thoughts about this list? Anything surprise you? I think you already touched on what was included that you didn't necessarily agree with, what might have been missing. You gave us some additional things that you would potentially add. Any parting thoughts though?
I think I don't know who generates the lists or why they generate the lists. I don't think they put enough thought into the lists. And I think sometimes they just, to me, when I look at the list they do, sometimes I think they put things in the list just to create controversy.
Yeah.
Or just to fill a spot and look, oh, look, I put somebody in there that's not like obvious, therefore I'm being edgy. Yeah. That's kind of how I always feel about their lists. Yeah. Hence you have your hit girls, and it's like, not knocking Hit Girl. It's just like, oh, you put an independent books character in there ahead of somebody like, a Speedy or an Aqualad, just to be,
or Rick Jones.
Or
I mean, because part of it is like, it seems like they're like, okay, we're gonna do a list. We need to do it a top 10. Let's just fill up the list. And then let's take a step back and see what's not represented and maybe try to represent that in some way, shape, or form. I completely agree, because there's some things that just don't make sense,
And I think they would do better if they said, we're going to list 10 major sidekicks, but not number them.
Yep.
Because I think once you put them in numbers, you start saying Hit Girl is above, let's see who, I don't know, Rick Jones. I might swap those two, right?
Yep.
Based on longevity and the history of the character, I think Rick Jones would rate higher. So don't number them, just list them.
Yeah, but again, controversy gets eyeballs, and it gets people like me to spend time talking about it on a live stream with people like you. So
it gets me on your show, so that's okay.
There you go. All right. So Wayne, aka Squirrel Madness, I want to thank you for hanging out with me, brother.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on the social media if they want to give you a follow?
I am on YouTube at Squirrel Madness, that's one word, comics. And I am on Instagram at Squirrel Madness _comics. And that's the best place to find me if you want to reach out to me by DM or whatever.
There you go. Wayne, it's always good to see you, brother. Thank you very much.
You too. Thanks so much.
And I didn't cut him off. There we go. All right, good stuff. No Wonder Girl. I mean, again, there were some people that are definitely missing from the list, no doubt about it. Shout out to Comic Journey. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Trev is up in here. It is good to see you, my friend. Randy Snake is in here. Definitely appreciate all you guys hanging out just a little bit. So for those folks that came in a little late, we ripped off on a couple of things. Most notably, we spent some time talking about the 10 best sidekicks of all time. And there was some interesting stuff that is on the list. Some stuff I honestly had no clue about. But the number one universal that I think a lot of people will probably agree with is that Robin is probably the number one sidekick of all time. Some of the other stuff that is on the list may be a little bit of debatable stuff. Also, as a reminder, this show that you guys are a part of right now, either watching or listening to either live or on replay, will be rebroadcast as part of our podcast, which comes out on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can actually take some Regie on the go if you guys wish. All right. So one other thing that I wanted to get to, and I invited another guest onto the show last minute, so we will see whether he pops up in here. But I wanted to get to something else because I saw several different things kind of pop up about this over the course of the last couple of days, and it's related to Blade. I do believe that the new Blade reboot is supposed to be released in theaters in November of 2023. And I do believe that they're about to, or either have started filming this movie right now. I think that they're in the midst of filming it, or they're pretty close, because the release date is November 13th, 2023. At least that's the date that's been penciled in. But as of late, Wesley Snipes has been in the news. He's been quoted several times talking about the fact that the MCU has not reached out to him in any way, shape, or form to have any kind of conversations about him potentially coming back to do a cameo or something like that. And do I feel bad for him? Kind of, sort of, because I think Wesley Snipes is a phenomenal actor. He's been an actor in some really amazing stuff that I've watched over a series of decades. He got in trouble, and I think he's trying to get stuff back on track. It would be awesome. It would be awesome if the MCU actually reached out to him and actually invited him to come back to do something within the Blade series. And so there's actually a quote down here from him that I want to focus on. It says, while speaking with comicbook.com to discuss his Kickstarter graphic novel called The Exiled, he says Wesley Snipes shared his thoughts on a possible Blade return. The actor confirmed that he is still open to returning as the vampire hunter for the MCU, though notes he hasn't been approached by Marvel Studios for any kind of part in the franchise. And this is what he said. He said, never say never. As long as I'm healthy and in shape, I can rock with them. As far as my predictions on if something like that happens in the future, I don't know. He says, it seems to me that it would have happened. It seems to me if it would have happened already. But hey, never say never. He says, no, Marvel Studios has not approached me as of yet. I'm still working on my acting skills. So when I come up as an actor, maybe they'll reach out and say, let's have a conversation. And I do believe that he has tried to have conversations with them. At least that's what some of the reporting has been, is that in the past, he has reached out to try to see whether there's interest in having him come back. And there seemed to be no receptivity. But then there was a period in there where he was almost disinterested. He's like, well, if you don't want me, then I don't want you. And now he seems to be coming back around to at least being open to the idea. Again, Wesley Snipes is not a problem-free individual, but he is a talented actor, and he made Blade incredible. I mean, he was the MCU before there was the MCU. Those first couple of Blade movies were incredible. And I go back and watch some of them now just because I thought that they were incredible. I also like vampires. So that's a huge part of it. But fingers crossed that they do find a way to actually work Wesley into the rhythm of what is actually happening. All right. So I want to revisit something that I spoke about at the very beginning of the show. And what I made mention of is the fact that the comic that I am self-publishing, Isolation, which is going to, fingers crossed, come out in July, has been added to Key Collector app. They have added it in there, and when it showed up in the system, it was amazing. I walked across the room and I showed my phone to my wife, and I was like, "We have arrived." I didn't exactly say that, but it's pretty cool to have something that you're working on appear in a industry-wide resource. And so shout out to Key Collector app for including Isolation in the comic. But to the point of talking about this for a couple of minutes, I wanted to invite on the show my partner in crime, Doug Bratton. Doug, it is good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Reggie. And I did not see your invite until about 2 minutes ago when you said you were waiting for a response.
Everything that I do is for a reason, because I know that if you had seen it, you would have already been in the chat. So I was like, let me throw it out there, because he'll probably go check his email, assuming that I'm talking about you. So I'm glad that we continue to have this wonderful mind meld where I have a thought and you know exactly where I'm going. Doug, you used some improper language when you saw this in the system. We won't repeat that language here, but talk with me about what it's like when you see something that you've worked on appear in something like Key Collector app. What goes through your mind?
The funny thing is I was completely surprised by it. I literally just happened to pull up the daily updates because I hadn't checked it because I was busy all day, and it was right there at the top. So I was shocked and expressed that in a DM to you with some salty language.
Oh, it's spicy language. I love spicy language. I just don't do it on camera, but I love it. I chuckled to myself as soon as I saw it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Doug. I do stuff and I don't tell you about it because I want you to just be surprised. You know what I'm saying? I want you to just experience it when it happens because that brings me pleasure. I'm gonna be honest. It just brings me pleasure. But go ahead.
You got me for sure because it was very bizarre and cool because that Key Collector app is an incredible resource, and thousands of collectors check it every single day. So for Key Collector app to recognize what we're doing is something interesting for the hobby, and to be willing to share that, I think says a lot about one, their support of independent creators and content, and probably their a relationship over time that you built, but hopefully it's also recognizing the quality and the work that went into it, and some of the attention that it's starting to get because of good people in the community like Matt Woods, who I lied to and said I was not going to be on the show tonight earlier because I didn't know, Matt. But because members of the community who've received the ash can have had really positive reviews and have been sharing that, which I really appreciate.
Yep. And I think it's about building momentum, man. We did the guide last year, sold 4,000 copies of that. That says a lot. That says a lot. And anybody that has read the guide, touched the guide, knows that there is some quality in that. And I think when you do something like that successfully, it gives people a lot of confidence and comfort in the things that you bring forward later because of the standard that has been set. And is there some risk in that? Yeah, there's some risk in sticking your neck out there, but I think we have a nice track record of me doing content on a regular and consistent basis, nonstop for 4 years, you doing blog posts and helping me to do research for videos that is just proving time and time again to be ahead of the curve, right? And now we have a comic that's coming out that is beautifully illustrated, that is garnering some attention. I mean, we're getting close to selling as many comics as we sold issues of the guide.
Yeah.
And the comic's not even out yet. Like that is, I'm still astounded.
Yeah.
I'm still astounded, right? And it's like I'm honestly living my best life. Go ahead, brother. I cut you off.
No, I was just going to chime in and say the same thing. It's a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes that people don't see, but it is really fun. Like 99% of it, the 1% when you get the books and you have to pack them all up and ship them out, then I just I'm going to turn my phone off and not take messages for a couple of days. But besides that, it's really fun.
I'm going to send you some spicy emails or messages. I'm going to tell you.
I'm expecting them.
Again, man, it's a dream. It's really a dream come true. I never envisioned being able to have a comic, much less a comic that sells, much less a comic that appears in something like Key Collector app. Much less having fun doing the whole thing, right? It really is awesome, so I'm glad that you had that little surprise. But I think can you talk about what's happening later this week? Are you at liberty to talk about what's happening, I think on Friday? Can you do that? Or no?
Oh yeah. I will be on the 3 Men in the Basement YouTube channel. I don't think that's a secret. If it is, it's not anymore. So I know Roger and Otto, and they were very excited to hear about isolation and are really, really supportive and wanted to bring me on and interview me about isolation specifically. So I'm really excited. My apologies. I think it's 8 p.m. On YouTube Eastern time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I apologize because I usually make it a point to be in the chat for the Comic Crowd, and I think we're kind of on at the same time. So, but I shout out to that show as well. There's 2 great shows on Friday night. The Comic Crowd, Comic Book Crowd, for those who don't already watch it, is on Anachronic Comics, Joe's channel, which is also fantastic, and I catch that all the time. So I'll be catching that on the rewind after the interview.
Yeah, I remember back when I first started my channel, we would always, as content creators, go back and forth about who's doing a show when, so that we didn't step on one another's toes. And after a while, it became too much. It was impossible to not step on someone's toes. And I remember we were all like, we're just going to go after and do the best that we can, you know, because it's really tough. There is so much great content out there that it's impossible to catch it all live. But the benefit is that you have rewind. You can catch it on rewind. And that's one of the great things. Doug, so I want to take you off screen here for a second, because I want to talk about something else. And then I want to have you come back and maybe offer a few thoughts. And again, we're doing this all impromptu. Like Doug didn't know he was even coming on tonight. Now I'm having him on for 2 segments, but Doug, bear with me for a hot second. Okay. So one of the other things that I wanted to hip you guys to is something that Doug and I covered in a previous video, a previous Blue Ocean video, where we hipped you guys to a book that no one was paying attention to. And then I want to say like a week or 2 after we highlighted it, it was announced that Marvel was coming out with a brand new series for this thing. And again, we did not know that in any way, shape, or form. We did not know. We just, again, happened to be ahead of the curve. And what I'm talking about is this thing right here. This is Wild Cards. And so this is a first look at George R.R. Martin's Marvel Comics superhero epic, Wild Cards. And again, this was something that was released years and years ago. I think R.R. Martin and George R.R. Martin and some other people have written a series of long form novels about the Wild Cards that was eventually turned into a mini series from Marvel. It went somewhere else, and now it is actually coming back to Marvel. They're redoing it. And so we actually get a look at some of from some of the panels here. But I want to look at this real quick. It says Wild Cards is a superhero universe conceived by George R.R. Martin and Snodgrass that played out in a series of prose novels and short stories from the duo, along with other contributors. The overall focus here is an alien virus known as the Wild Card virus has infiltrated Earth society. Those that are infected with it will fall into basically 3 categories. Either they will get a Joker, if you will, Joker card that causes physical mutations. They will draw an ace that gives them superpowers, or they will draw a Black Queen, which means that they basically die. They suddenly just drop dead from this alien virus. And so we actually get here on this page, if I can maybe make it a little smaller, we actually get a look at some panels from this comic. And the color palette is a little different. It's not what I expected to see, so it's definitely a little different. The art is a little different. The detail that's in here is kind of an interesting level of detail in a good way. I do not mean that in a good way, but we get a look at a couple of things here. We get a look at maybe some of the aces, some of those that get the deformity card, and clearly those that die are somewhere in the background there. But I think that is actually one of them right there, deformed, looking like a tree. So just some interesting stuff that is happening here. And again, I do believe that this comes out in July. Yeah, it says Wild Cards, the Drawing of Cards, issue number 1 of 4 goes on sale July 27th. So again, I wanted to have Doug on here for a second longer to talk a little bit about this. Had you even seen this, Doug? Had you seen this announcement of the Wild Card series coming back out?
Not before we put it in the Blue Ocean spec video. Buy these books now. That was serendipity. I don't think that's the right word. It was definitely a happy accident. What we had seen was that Wild Cards was in development for a streaming service. It went kind of into development hell, and then was moved to Peacock. But what we did know when we highlighted the original series was that George R.R. Martin IP is very, very hot because of Game of Thrones. So just because something gets shelved for a time does not mean it's not coming back. When that news kind of resurfaced, that George R.R. Martin started talking about it on his blog, that they were actually, I think, writing the scripts for the Wild Card show on Peacock, this news kind of dropped at the same time, which, is smart coordination. So yep. I'm looking forward.
What I did not know here, and maybe you did, is that George R.R. Martin has a long history with Marvel Comics. I don't know that I fully appreciated that, because in this article it says, as my fans already know, the Wild Cards world holds a special place in my heart, so I have the privilege of announcing that an industry titan like Marvel is going to produce the narrative from the beginning as a comic book brings me no end of joy. And it goes on to talk about his long history. Specifically, if I can find it here, he has some letters that were written, that he wrote into Marvel back in 1963 that appeared in Fantastic Four issue number 20. Like, this dude is a long-term comic book fan, and you wonder how much Marvel influenced him as a youth that contributed towards him doing what he ultimately did. And now it's coming full circle. It's a beautiful thing to see. But Doug, did you know he had this long history with Marvel going back to issue number 20?
Yeah, I actually read, I'm pretty sure it was the book, All the Marvels, which is a really interesting book that kind of talks about the history of Marvel Comics and different storylines. I believe that's the book that highlighted the letters pages and highlighted that George R.R. Martin was one of many famous future writers, including many future Marvel writers, which is funny because some of them wrote in letters like slamming them when they were upset with what they did with the character. And then years later, they're in the office interviewing, with the person that they trashed. So
yeah. Probably later on to get slammed by the next generation of writers that we're going to see eventually, right? Like it's a cycle, definitely. So again, just really cool stuff. If you guys are not checking out these Blue Ocean Buy These Books Now videos, you are definitely missing out. Doug does a tremendous amount of research to identify books that people are not paying attention to, specifically books that are not in Key Collector app, right? Because once it gets in Key Collector app, people are paying attention to it, right? So if you can identify books before they get in Key Collector app, before there is a run up in price, that's a good time to actually buy a book, not when everybody's paying attention to it, driving the price of it up. We do this basically once a month, and I think, Doug, we already have one more in the queue for July focused on Sandman. So there's but one focused on Sandman.
Yeah, one focused on Sandman and one not.
Just general. Yeah.
Fun fact, to tie this all together, I recently read an interview with George R.R. Martin. Neil Gaiman pitched the idea of Sandman as a wild card novel that they rejected, and then he took it to DC and Vertigo. So pretty wild.
Gotta love it. He could have had even more money if he had signed on, Anyway, Doug, again, I want to thank you, brother, for the impromptu joining of this live stream. Before I let you go, where can people get a hold of you on the social media if they want to throw you a follow or just reach out and touch you? That sounded inappropriate. Don't reach out and touch him. If you want to reach out and talk to him, have at that. There we go.
Best place is on Instagram at Doug.Bratton, BRATTON .9.
There we go, Doug. It's always good to see you. I'll probably talk to you in another 15 minutes when the show wraps up, because we talk pretty much every day, all day. So we'll just continue doing what we're doing. But thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Take care.
All right. So definitely enjoy the Blue Ocean, man. I'm gonna tell you, Doug does a tremendous amount of research into those. He really does. And you know, he doesn't always get it right. I always don't get the verbalization right. But we try to do a really good job of delivering good content for people to enjoy, right? And at the end of the day, we're basically saying, hey, here's some cool stuff that we found. We want to make you aware of it. What you do with it is on you, right? So take it all with a grain of salt. JLS Comics is in the house. How you doing? Hello, gentlemen. Cheers from Argentina. Great content. We appreciate you, Panda. Thank you very much. Wait a minute. What is that? What is the Sandman character that Doug is? Don't make Doug feisty. That's all I'm gonna say to you. Matt Woods, this one is for you, sir. There are some changes that are going down right now with Conan the Barbarian. As you guys know, Marvel lost the license to Conan, but this article that I found on comicbook.com actually says that they chose to not renew the license, and they may have chosen not to renew it because of some contract terms that were being requested. At least that's the feel that I get from this article as you read between the lines. Conan will head to Titan in May of 2023, where the character will get a new monthly ongoing comic book. The UK-based publisher, Titan that is, has plans in place for supporting characters who will get their own miniseries and one-shots, setting up a shared universe for Conan, which presumably appeals strongly to the rights owner who wants to get another movie off the ground eventually. It says the character had his own series at Marvel for a while, which has appeared in numerous Marvel Universe storylines. Most recently, he was added to Savage Avengers, a comic which also features Wolverine. The CEO, this guy that owns the rights, he says, we had a wonderful run with Marvel Comics, but ultimately, they have decided not to extend their license beyond this year. Before, it was presented that they lost the license, which is a little different from choosing not to renew the license, and they may have chosen not to renew it because of some demands that the owner of the IP was trying to negotiate and put out there. They may have chose to just walk away. But Heroic Signature CEO, this guy by the name of Fred, is the one that is quoted here. He says, Conan has more than 50 years of comic book publishing. We took the decision to pick up the baton ourselves, not only for Conan, but for all the other wonderful characters in IP that we control. The publishing program will commence next year, but exact details are not yet final. So this article kind of goes on to talk a little bit about what they hope to be doing, what's going on with all of the IP, but it appears that Conan is moving over to a UK-based publisher called Titan. Now, what does that mean for people here in the US being able to access this book? I honestly don't know. I don't know much about foreign comics, if you will, coming into the US. I don't know whether they have the same method of distribution. I don't think that I've ever seen a Titan comic in my life. And so it'll be really interesting to see kind of what happens with this. And again, my buddy here, Matt Woods, may have a little bit of insight that can help us out if he knows what's actually going on with Conan. So again, I wanted to kind of cover off on that to share that information with you guys. And quickly, as a reminder, earlier this week, I did a quick live stream to hip you guys to a really crazy sell of a book that I'm about to buy. Here it is, Amazing Fantasy 9.4. This book, Amazing Fantasy 15 9.4. One of, I believe, only 6 copies of a 9.4 of this book in existence. There are only 4 books graded higher than this on the CGC census, and those 4 are all 9.6s. This book could be yours for the low price of $4 million. All you have to do is to go ahead and click the buy it now button. But just an amazing book right here that is on the MySlabs website. Shout out to the CEO of MySlabs for making me aware of this book. Within the hour that it was posted, gave me a chance to talk a little bit about this amazing copy. I would love to own this thing, but I am short several million. And on that note, we're going to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. And as I go to the break here, as I wrap it up, you're going to hear some new music, some revised music that I've been meaning to put in place probably for like 2.5 months, and I stopped being lazy and finally made the magic happen. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. Take care.
My body ate itself until it found its passion. They got fat while we starved, but it's power in fasting. Until I turned to ashes, I remained stoic through my rap heroics. I painted 10,000 poems, then I drank the potion of poetry and motion. I started choking, it was potent. My throat chakra downloaded, knowledge hungry. I was embarrassed I could ask my parents for money when I had a full tummy. So I asked for wisdom, better than crypto, sweeter than honey. I don't take it for granted, I don't wear capes and masks.